Dr. Andrew Weaver is a climate scientist, a member of the faculty at the University of Victoria, and also a member of the Nobel Prize-winning Intergovernmental Panel on Climate Change. In 2013, his life took a remarkable turn when he became the first Green Party member of the legislature of British Columbia, the first Green Party MLA in any provincial legislature in Canada, as a matter of fact. We talked at his office here in the legislature about science, about climate, and about the issues and urgencies that led him to abandon the comfortable life of a professor for the hurly-burly of provincial politics.
In science, what you do is you start off with a question or a phenomenon that you try to explain, and you observe that phenomenon and you develop an explanation of all known observations of that phenomenon, a theory in some sense. But in some areas you typically find, and in some of this kind of skeptic arguments of climate science, is you have a solution, and that solution is that global warming is not happening or greenhouse gases are not causing. And instead of seeking a theory that explains all known observations of a particular phenomenon, you have the theory and you seek those observations which support your theory and ignore everything else. I like to think of that as decision-based evidence-making as opposed to evidence-based decision-making, which is you'd want to build policy from a foundation of evidence, all evidence, not just selective evidence. You don't want to have a decision and then after the fact seek information or evidence to justify it. So in some sense, I would argue that the scientific method is being kind of abused in this global warming skepticism approach.
Yeah, and it's that very fact that there is a question at all seems to be what they sort of capitalize on.
Right, and so what happens if you follow the history, I mean, I've been in this business of climate science since late 1989, I guess, was when I really started. My PhD was in 87, and it was shortly thereafter I got into the climate science. If you look at the arguments that have been put forward by the so-called skeptics, it's a little bit about decision-based evidence making. The arguments continually change. But the thesis hasn't. Humans are not causing global warming and it's not a big deal anyway. We had a whole lot of emphasis put on so-called satellite measurements, which apparently didn't show warming. Well, it turned out not to be the case. We've had a whole bunch of stuff on sunspots. Well, it turns out that the sun is cooling. We've had a whole bunch of stuff on natural variability. We've had a whole bunch of stuff on a variety of issues. And it's like the approach is almost as if it's a legal defense team that knows that it has lost its case. But what really matters, you may be guilty, but what matters is you have a jury there, and you want to leave an element of doubt with that jury so that they render a not guilty verdict. And it's the same with climate science. By leaving this element of doubt, the public jury will still, render a not guilty verdict on terms of our causing of global warming.
Tell me about the decision that got you here. You had a very interesting, very full, and I would think very satisfying career that you didn't abandon, but you put on hold while you came off to do this, which many people would say was not a very satisfying career.
There's no doubt that I was very busy, but I still have a lab, but it's, I'm not there as often, and I'm not accepting as many students. Well, I've only accepted one in the last 2 years, or the last year and a half. And I probably will not accept any this year. So there's no question that I made a sacrifice on my career. I don't think I could go back and be at the level in science as I was. You can't, because you're at the front lines, and you step off that conveyor belt for a year, 2 years, 3 years, 4 years, you can't be at the front again. It takes a long time to get back. But the reason why I did this is actually, there's a movie. It was demonstrated in a movie by Rob Stewart called Revolution. I don't know whether you're aware of it. And in that movie, he interviews me in Copenhagen in 2009. And I say the following. I say scientists have done their job. Now it's time for politicians to do theirs. I mean, I've given so many talks on climate science and from the education perspective. I could keep doing that. But in 2013 or 2012, I stood back and said, you know what? Here we are, and they're not doing their jobs. Should I get out there and talk about climate science again and talk about the importance of getting engaged in our political systems, the youth vote, etc., or should I stand forward and practice what I preach? And it was the latter reason that actually spurred me to do this. And I thought There are many people out there who could actually continue to communicate the science, who could do the research. For example, I've trained lots of students in my lab, really bright students who are out there. They could, my position in terms of doing the science can be replaced. But how many scientists go into politics? None. This politics is filled with lawyers. And in law, the person with the best argument is the person who wins. In science, it's the person with the best evidence that actually wins the debate. And I think we need more of that.
Dr. Andrew Weaver, scientist, activist, and politician. For the Green Interview, I'm Silver Donald Cameron. See you next time.